Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Vashi. I came to know Jesus many years ago from a Hindu background. I've been asked to share something about my experience in this series. My experience is from a few years back in 2010. At the beginning of that year, I had decided that I was going to read the Bible in a year, which I had already done a couple of times previously. As I began to read, I also prayed that God would reveal himself afresh to me this time round. At first, nothing stood out for a few months, and then in May 2010, my world turned upside down when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. This came as a complete shock to me, and I could not accept it. And I asked for a second opinion and further tests to be carried out. And I remained in this state of mind for a few days. And in that time, I could not pick up the Bible to read, let alone pray. After a few days, I knew that I had to get back to reading the Word and ask God for his strength for me to cope with what lay ahead. While waiting for the appointments to come through and while carrying on with my reading plan, I came across a passage from 2 Kings chapter 5, which is about Naaman. Now, Naaman was a commander of an army to the king of Aram. He was highly recommended by his master because through him the Lord had given him victory. He was also suffering from leprosy. One of his servant girls in his household said if only he would go to Israel to see a prophet who could cure him. Now, the prophet referred to here is Elisha. So Naaman took permission from his master and went to Israel. And when finally he arrived at Elisha's door, Elisha sent a messenger asking him to ask Naaman to go and wash himself 7 times in the river Jordan. At first, Naaman became angry and said that he didn't even come out to lay or wave his hands over him to cure him. But one of his servants who was with him said if the prophet had asked him to do something great, would he not have done it? So Naaman went and washed himself 7 times in the river, and his flesh was restored and he was cleansed. Now, something about this passage struck a chord with me. I don't know what it was apart from healing. And this passage would not leave me for a couple of days. So I carried on praying into it and asking God to confirm if this was from him. By the end of that week, 2 different individuals sent me the same passage to read for an encouragement. So I took this as an encouragement from God and carried on praying for healing. While praying into it, I had an appointment to go and see the consultant because I had already had further tests carried out. At this appointment, the consultant recommended that a date was booked in for the surgery as the original diagnosis was confirmed, and also to see the oncologist to discuss the treatment after the surgery. While waiting for the surgery, I carried on praying and asking God for the healing and for revealing himself further. In one of those days in my quiet time, I felt the sense that it said that the sense that do whatever he says. And I didn't know what it meant, but I just carried on praying into it. And a week before the surgery, again in my quiet time, I felt that I had to ask the surgeon to check for cancer before carrying out with the surgery. Now, those of you know me, this is something I would never do or challenge anyone. It surprised me, but because I knew I was not going to take any action that I put it at the back of my mind. And on the day of the surgery, someone came over to pray with me before I went to hospital. When they prayed, and as they were about to leave, they said to me, Vashi, do ask the surgeon to check for the cancer before they operated. And this took me by surprise because I had not shared this with anyone. Again, like I said, I had no intention of carrying this out. When at hospital, I got ready to be taken down to the theatre. The surgeon came over for final checks and asked if I had any questions, to which I said I didn't have any question, but I had a favor to ask. Again, I surprised myself at this because I had no intention of asking. But he said what it was, and I said to him if he could check for the cancer before operating. He asked me why I was asking that. So I told him that because I believe in God and I believe in miracles. To which he said, it is going to be a miracle, but it is going to be an assisted miracle. Then he went. After the surgery, when I woke up in the recovery room, I realized I had the operation. At this point, I became very upset and disappointed. And when I came home the next day, the more I thought, the more angry I became. Very disheartened, very disillusioned that whatever I had felt while reading the Bible was something I couldn't understand what it was, and I decided that it was not worth reading the Bible, not for praying or going to church. So I decided to stay away from all that. For the next 8 months, I had my 6 sessions of chemotherapy, 15 sessions of radiotherapy, and all throughout this time I didn't pray, I didn't go to church, and I didn't read. After these 8 months, I returned to work, and as I gained in strength and in confidence, and my regular checkups with the oncologist were proving to be quite good, and I was told that things were looking positive and that I would just need to carry up with the follow-up appointments. At this time, I realized that even though I hadn't prayed, I know my family, my church family, they had all prayed for me. And God's hand was over me. Because when I looked back, I know that there were 2 other ladies who were having the same treatment as me. Their treatment was delayed because while their bodies hadn't recovered from the previous session of chemotherapy, as a result, their treatment was delayed, but mine wasn't. In fact, I didn't have any delays in my treatment, and I went through the whole process without any setbacks. And slowly I realized that even though I had not asked for God's guidance or prayer, healing, He had healed me, not the way I wanted it, but it was a healing, an assisted healing, if you like. And I know that God's hand, His grace, His mercy was over me. And gradually, after a long time, I decided to come back to church and to God. And I'm glad I did, because I know whatever happens, God is in charge. I don't know what the future holds for me, but I know whatever it is, I can trust God. And I thank God for His word, and I would encourage everybody to continue to read with faith and expectation. Thank you. Thank you for listening.